Hello everyone, this is Tyler here. It is October 30th and I'm here in Thailand, and I want to explain to everyone why you shouldn't bring a woman back to your country that you live in if you're living abroad. And this is mostly for guys who intend to get married or intend to have long-term relationships. Okay, it's become very common recently for guys to bring back a woman that they meet in a less developed country, whether it's in Southeast Asia, Eastern Europe, it could even be South America, Africa, and these guys bring back the woman to their home country. Often the guy lives in a Western country, it could be America, Canada, England, etc. The woman is from a country that's often less developed, and the guy may have been traveling, living, studying in that particular country, and would like to be in a long-term situation with a woman. This is actually became more and more common in the past 15 to 20 years. You go back like 40 years ago, this type of thing happened, but it was just a lot less common. It wasn't like it is today. I think historically it was more often the case that the person would be from a country that was maybe on the same level or just slightly lower than the country they were immigrating to. But now we see a lot of people from the third world immigrating to first world countries. For a guy, I think this is something to avoid at all costs if possible. There are countless stories that you can read about of guys doing this, whether it's on forums, it's on videos, vlogs, whatever. There's so many accounts of guys taking a woman back, whether it's from Ukraine, Thailand, Philippines, Russia, wherever, Latin America, Colombia. These guys bring these women back, and they expect that the woman is going to remain the same as they are in their home country. They're going to retain all of those attributes living in this other society that is probably your home but not her home. 98% of the time or 99% of the time, this will not be the case. They can change a little or they can change a lot, but most likely they will change, and often it tends to be at least modestly. I would say it's actually often a lot, and this is just the reality. You can't expect to take a woman from their society and just anticipate that they're going to retain all of these qualities living in a society that is just built on something completely different. And this is just reality. It's often not going to work. The system and the environment is so important for women in terms of how they act and how they treat a man and how they behave themselves, how they respect guys and everything else. This is so critical you understand this. Many guys out there think that the woman that they meet in the country that they meet them in, if it's say a Ukrainian, they go to Ukraine and live there and they meet the woman and they start a relationship, that woman is just going to stay the same over the course of a few years in America, and this is often not the case. They typically will change a lot, and it's not usually in good ways that they change a lot. Their expectations become much higher. A lot of their values tend to go out the window, and there's just a lot of negative things that come into play here. And this is precisely why it's often best just to try keep the relationship or marriage in the country that the woman is from, if possible. If you're a guy and you can stay in that country, you are typically better off trying to make a situation in life in that country. And I would go as far to say that if you're a guy and you want to travel to a country and you don't anticipate living there long term, I wouldn't even try start a serious relationship with a woman in that country. It probably won't be worth it, because if you think you can take them back, and you do, to expect that there's going to be a lot of change in that person even within the first year. Also understand, especially in Eastern Europe now, a lot of women do not want to go back to these countries. They are not as interested often in immigrating to first world countries like USA and Canada like they were, say, 20 or 25 years ago. You actually find this often. When I lived in St. Petersburg, Russia, it was very common for me to encounter younger women that had absolutely zero interest in living in USA. They were certainly interested in traveling there, maybe being a student, if that, often not even that though. They often actually were more interested in staying in the European continent, whether it was Germany or Sweden, maybe France. They typically, though, did not have a lot of interest in living long-term in the US. And this is a major mentality shift from, say, 25 years ago, shortly after the Soviet Union collapsed. Now, if we go over to Philippines, Thailand, these countries, certainly, I think even today, there still are many women in these countries that do desire to live in USA and Canada, be there long term. I think in this sense, this is something that the women in these countries have retained longer. But understand that even for guys that are living, especially if you go to certain Eastern European countries in the European Union, in many of these countries especially, many women are just fine, honestly, staying in Europe. And also remember that even if they do come from, let's say, more poor EU country, they can just go to a different EU country and resettle there. They don't even need to leave the European continent. They could literally just go 2 countries over and be in a first world country. And this wasn't the case often 25 years ago when the EU was much smaller, certainly 30 years ago or 35 years ago. So the mindset towards this has really shifted. And you're just going to encounter this more often, that they don't need to resettle one of these other countries. Certainly also, if we go down to South America, you probably also find more women interested in the more impoverished South American countries or Central American countries, desiring to go to the US or Canada if possible. But if you go to some of the more prosperous South American countries, such as Uruguay or Chile, in places like this, not nearly as many women are interested in resettling in US and Canada like they would have been maybe 20 years ago. It's really shifted in this respect. And this is how quickly the times have changed here. And for people in this category, this is probably actually better, because this isn't even going to be an option in the first place. You may end up with a woman that doesn't even want to leave their country at all. So you're going to have to make a situation in that country. The biggest problem of taking someone back is the social influences and the overall culture around this person, this woman, is just not very conducive and positive for a good, healthy relationship nowadays. And this is the biggest issue when you look at countries like US and Canada. The exposure, the influences around this woman will often be very negative. And this could even be immediate family member influence. I've read about situations where it was actually like a sister of a guy or like a cousin, and they were very toxic towards the wife of a guy who had recently married someone who was from a foreign country and had brought them back, and they were implanting them right from the beginning with very bad ideals, these girl power ideals, and just all this negative, toxic ideology in the mind of this woman. It's terrible, honestly. This could be like a sister of the guy, and this is actually more common nowadays than you would think. So if possible, do your best, keep the woman in the home country that they come from. This will be much better for a relationship. Figure out what you can do to live in that country long term. See what things you can do to work, what opportunities exist. You may have to take a salary cut. You may have to initially make financial sacrifices, but trust me, long term, it will be much healthier for the relationship, and it will be much more stable, most likely, in this situation. And one other thing is that when you stay in that country, and you show that you're going to remain in that country, the type of women you're going to attract is going to be different. They're going to know that you don't have any plans to go back to your home country. So immediately you'll siphon ones that are just simply looking at you for the documents, because none of them are going to be interested. When they realize this isn't what your plan is, you're going to naturally find the more genuine women. And this is a huge plus, having this type of mindset. It's so beneficial in this respect. You'll siphon through all those terrible quality women right in the beginning. And this is key here. So just do your best and see what you can do in a foreign country. And like I said, keep them there if possible, and it will work out much better. So give me your feedback below, and thank you.